In Qt Designer, there are 3 ways to connect your signals to slots. I already showed you the preferred way, at least by me. I'm going to show you the no-no way, and I'm going to show you the okay-ish way. Let's recap the best way, at least according to yours truly, of how to connect signals from any objects in our Qt Designer generated code. It looks like what we have here. Simply get your dirty hands on the object that you're interested in listening to. It's, as we saw, inside the generated code here. And let me scroll up. Warning, warning, blink, blink, blink. It is generated, but that's the code that we got generated from creating, say, action save in our user interface. Once we have that action save, well, then it's just a signal slot connection as any other signal slot connections we would do on the C++ side. I like this way of connecting because it's in my face. Whenever I want to understand how the object is set up, I'll simply go to the constructor of the object as I usually would. And in there, I'll see that there is a connection between this object from the user interface to whatever it needs to do. There are 2 other ways, and let me show you the first one now. So if you look at the user interface here, as we realized in last episode, as regular expression, whenever that is not checked, then Perl and Seed should be disabled. And just a note, Qt does have its own regular expression engine that you should be using instead of Perl and Seed, but hey, that's a different side note here. So what I can do is that I can say that whenever I click this one, then if it's clicked on, then these should be enabled. And if it's clicked off, then they should be disabled. The way that I do that is that I go up here to my signal slot editor. That's the one we have here. If you are using Qt Creator 11.0.0, then you actually need to go to the tab order, which is just, or edit bodies, which is just, that's not right. They must have messed up some code somewhere, and it will be fixed. I already filed a bug report about that. So I'll choose this one. We'll think that I choose this one, but what we'll do now is that I can see all these things highlighting here are elements that emit signals that I can connect to. My regular expression, I'll press down here and drag it to the object here for the radio button for Perl. And now, as you can see over here, I have a connection from here to here. What it asked me is that which signal is it that I'm interested in? Well, I've clicked signal. That's the one where user presses and releases, and the Boolean being brought out tells us whether it's actually checked or not checked. Usually, you will not have this one down here checked, and then it will say, but where is the signal slot I'm interested in? Well, show signals. This should be the default. I just played with it a second before I started this recording, so that's why it was on. So we'll click it on and we'll go over here and see set enable bool. That's the one I'm interested in. Now you can see clicked bool goes to set enable bool there. And it's blinking in red because I'm moving the cursor around and it's ready to do the next one. So here is the next one. Run from the same one to the same one, clicked bool, or to the other radio button, and set enable bool. And now I have it clicked, set enabled in both of them. And I can go back to my drag and drop things around. And that's the part that I like the least about this method here. Let me just go up here in views and add the signal slot. If I have that on that frame, which I usually don't actually, but if I have that, at least I can see that there's stuff going on here, but I still cannot see exactly where it is. But it's okay for these kind of things. Let's try and run it so we can see that it actually works out. So okay, didn't work out that well, huh? The state wasn't set. That's because that when it starts up, it's only when I click that the signal's being emitted. See, now it works. So I definitely need to go in here and I can choose both of them and then find the enabled. If I cannot find it, then I can filter enabled. I can uncheck that one. And now they are both. If I run it again, edit, search. They are not enabled now. Now they enable. Now they're not enabled, and so on. Doesn't work. That's one of those that actually, from time to time, that I make it go away and signal slot. This is this button down here. Let's just do that right away. Remember, I'm not supposed to press this one here. I'm supposed to press this one, but box. Now drag from here onto here, and it's called click without anything, and close. Okay. Run again, and edit, search, and close. Now that actually works. That's the one signal that is no surprise at all to. So that one I usually have set up in here. But let's go now over to my user interface. Remember that I have this up here. This regular expression is called as regular expression with a capital A. Interesting naming with a lowercase a. So as regular expression over here. Imagine that during the setup, I read a configuration file, or I connect to a server somewhere that sent me data back, and somehow I get to the realization that, hey, actually this UI as regular expression here still didn't pick up that I renamed it. Maybe I shouldn't have done. Oops. As regular expression. I come somehow to the realization that it should be checked initially. There we are. The code would look like this. Of course, true. There would be a lot of code around, like I read from my configuration file, whatever. And let's see what happens now. See, edit, search, and it's disabled. So that's where it gets slightly frustrating, because what I need to do in this particular case, and it's not all that much about that checkbox. It's more about the when is the signal being emitted. And let me go back into the edit signal mode here. There we are, the edit signal. And there are actually a few different, I shouldn't have chose clicked, because that one is only emitted when the mouse is being pressed down and released again. What I should have done is toggled to set enable. Oh, there we are. And similar over here. I did not edit that one. It is going well, isn't it? Now we need to go and use signal slot editor. I got too many now. Let me just delete those two clicked here. Okay. It is interesting. Why can I not? See, I obviously don't do that a lot. Minus. There we are. Minors. Group box. That's likely not what I want. This was a closed one. Okay. I am not cutting this out because I want to show you some of the pain it sometimes is to work with Qt Designer, but still way preferable over writing the code in C++. Go from this one to that one. It's not clicked. It is called toggled, and toggled go into set enabled. Okay. This one into that one. Toggled go into set enabled. Okay. And now run it. Edit, search, and you see now they're enabled. Disabled, enabled. So they got out right. And that's what you're when you're thinking, yes, but that just means that this setting of these two and setting that I could undo this. So if I click there, then there's a difference between checking it and undoing it. You can see the boldness of this one. Actually, it's easier to see if I have more. Well, okay, so now both of them now it is checked. Now it's unchecked. Need to go somewhere. See, it's bold up here. Now if I check it again, it is still bold, which means that it will be generating checked into the code. If I go and choose this one, then the boldness vanished and it's just the default value. Minor difference, but nevertheless. Anyway, you might say that if I'm using the toggle, then I don't need to do this trick. And let's see, run it. Well, obviously in this setup that I have now, because I am actually setting it, you can see they are enabled, which you cannot tell whether it was because of the default or because of some code. But imagine that I did not call this line, which was the default, and in that setup, edit search, and they are enabled despite, because the toggle signal is not being emitted whenever you just set it up. So you need to be paying a bit of attention to when are the signals actually being emitted. Clicked is when the user presses and releases the mouse button. Toggled is whenever the user toggles it, whether it's by clicking it, by pressing the space bar, by calling set checked, as in our situation here. But none of those are emitted as an initial value, which is none of the signals in Qt are ever emitted with an initial value. That's it. A good rule to remember, at least. We also have Qt Widgets training, Well, it's this training here, but much more tailored to your need. We might go into discussions that I'm not going to cover in this training. We might do exercises, and that is part where you learn a lot. Not just doing the exercises right, but also doing them wrong. And that's where a trainer will be to help you learn from your experiences. If you're ready to a slight little bit of silliness, then I'll show you an example that does not work with this way of connecting the user interface. Let's look at the user interface again. Imagine, that's where the silliness come in, that the whole words only should be enabled whenever as regular expression is enabled and when case sensitive is enabled. How would I drag down to here? Because I can only say that a signal from there should go into a slot from there. And that slot being already set up. So how would I do that? Well, that is actually somewhat difficult. What I can do is that I can say, okay, let me do this in C++ code instead. So I'll go to my C++ code, and over here, let me just paste you some code in that I already connected here, or already wrote. Connect as regular expression. This checkbox called toggled should go into toggled here. And well, I want the update UI state to be executed in both of those. So whenever I toggle any of these, then update UI state will be executed. And we can add that over here. Update UI state, void, and add definition search dialog. And again, I also have that set up here. It looks like this: UI whole words set enabled whenever the regular expression is checked and the is checked case sensitive is checked. And if I run this code now, then, well, let's see. Edit search, case sensitive. That made it this. Wait. No, go back in. Edit search. It is enabled by default. Well, it should only be enabled when I have both of them checked. And of course, that's the same problem as before. I could apply the solution as before, namely to just go into my Qt Designer and disable it, because I know that these two will not be enabled. But here's the cool thing. I can go into my user interface, given that it's okay to call this as many times as I want. All I can do is go in here and I can call update UI state like this, and ready with the drums, edit search, and it has been disabled initially. If you look at my code, over the last 20 years, you'll see that update UI states is sneaking in more and more places, because that is just, if I have something where it's perfectly okay to call that function as many times as I want, because it's just an end state that it ends up with, then it's actually nicer to, I'll just connect this to update UI state, connect that to update UI state. And yeah, it might be a few extra milliseconds or microseconds that it will execute to set that up. But hey, that's cool. I just have one function where I need to think careful about what should be enabled, what should be visible in the right situations. I hope you didn't hear my dog bark in the previous recording, or at least not too much. And yes, I have a whole mini zoo here of rabbits running around on the floors and dog also running around with the rabbits. And it's actually going pretty well. If you're interested, I can even share a video, but that is not within the realms of Qt Widgets. Let me, however, show you inside of Qt Widgets here. Imagine that whenever, what can I come up with now? Whenever this one is checked, that I should just print something out in standard output. What I can do now is I can check, I can select it, I can right click, and then I can say, go to slot. It's a checkbox, and which slot? Well, it's whenever it's clicked, go to that one, and here it is, and I can print out, hello, that was German, wasn't it? And then the check state. And I guess I need to include that little fellow called QTopia. Okay, let's run that and see that it actually works. And then I'll tell you why I think this is the worst thing ever. Came up over here on that other screen. Edit, search. I need these two to be able to check it. There we are. Hello true and hello false. Now, I don't like that way of doing it. I'm sure that Trolltech in the good old days, before they were called Nokia or Digia or the Qt company, that they added this because some other UI facility like Qt Designer in another toolkit had something, and a customer complained that they were missing that very much. I'll show you why I dislike it. I have two reasons. First of all, I guess you can already figure out in here, if I take this whole words and I rename that to whole words 2, then going back over here, it did not update these up here either. So I'll have update this here. Set enable whole word 2. That didn't get updated, but let me just get it back here. That one will tell me, hey, I don't know what whole words is. Do you mean whole word 2? Okay, that's what I meant. So I can get that. That's a runtime or a compile time error. I like those, but this one down here, did you notice? Oh, now it came. Okay, I'll do that again. Run the application once more. Look at my application output here. Absolutely nothing but that we're starting the application. Then I go into my application here. Edit, search. Oh, there it came. At that time, when I was actually bringing up the dialog, that is when I had that connection being set up. And that's when at runtime it realized, oh, there is no, well, it's not that it figured out that there was no unwhole word 2 clicked signal, that one was missing. It was more that it said, oh, you have an unwhole words, and I don't know anything called whole words that has a clicked signal. How did that even work, Jesper? Well, that's a side story. Okay, you want to know. Let me go and find you this one here. UI, that's the generated code from Qt Designer. Scroll all the way down here. And at the bottom it says QMeter object, connect slots by name for this search dialog. So that's how that worked. That's one problem, that I needed to rename this one here. I can relatively easy rename it, but that's the one problem. The other problem is that if I wanted to do something like the state change that we had up here, if I wanted to call this method for some reason, now it's taking a bool, but nevertheless, let's just imagine that I had I've read it from whatever reason I had for calling it. Then I would do it up here. On whole words 2 clicked. But it wasn't clicked. It was me calling that from my constructor or from some other methods. And what kind of function name is on whole word 2 clicked? And imagine that you had some set up with a function f that called a function g, and in g it did something. You would never name your function g as whenever I'm called from f. Well, then everything would be called whenever I'm called from that thing that is called from that thing that is called from main. But that's a joke that you can laugh at or just, you're so lame. And thank you very much for that. It seems like a good time to end this video, doesn't it? Let's just recap. I have 3 ways of connecting. I have simply in my constructor or elsewhere, doesn't need to be in my constructor. reach into the UI, find the object that I'm interested in the signal from, connect just a good old way as before we learned about Qt Designer. Second way, inside Qt Designer, go into this signal slot editing mode and drag from one thing to the other. And the third way is go to slot inside of my Qt Designer. And well, let's start from the back. Go to slot thing, I cannot urge you enough to not do that. It is full of surprises and you'll not know anywhere that you have that slot unless you read through the whole thing. In the UI way, the UI method, at least you can click on that one and you'll see that, okay, these are connected, or even better, you can look in the signal slot window if you have a screen that's big enough to show that one. But in this other way, it's just a method that magically shows up somewhere and does stuff. Then there's the connection inside of the UI. I've done that a lot over my 20 years of using Qt, but I do that less and less simply because it's not really worth it. It's somewhat hidden. The only one I do is connect the close button to close the actual window. And then there is the way that I would definitely recommend you in your constructor set up the signals that you're interested in. I'm Jesper Pedersen from QTopia. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and until next time, have a great time.